Get the merch. Jammin's the new crunchy. Hello, and welcome to the Weederlife podcast. I'm your host, Erica Weederlight, and I am the CEO and founder of Weederlight. I help humans who feel inadequate, broken, self-conscious, and shamed around their sexuality to reclaim their aliveness, their power, and to have a renewed relationship to pleasure while preparing themselves to feel hella confident to date others and themselves. AKA, I'm guiding people to live their #best lives. I have to give you a fair warning. I do unfortunately swear like a drunken sailor, so if you do have little ones by you, just be sure to pop in some earbuds. All right, friends, let's buckle up and let's rock it to this week's episode. Well, we're back. I'm laughing because, it's so funny, and I've talked about this before, but usually my method acta comes out, and whatever topic I'm talking, not all the time, but usually whatever topic I'm talking about and jamming out to, I kind of like really am in that place or jam out to that place or go to that place. So it's funny because when I started recording, I recorded this episode earlier today, and it's interesting because in the beginning it was funny as fuck. Like I was like, okay, she's a stand-up comedian. Like it was funny as fuck. Things were flowing. I was like, yes. It was happening. And then like there was like there was that energy going, which was super interesting because part of me was like, fuck yeah, I'm jamming. And part of me was having this like push, pull, stop, start, and I was like, motherfucker. And like, I really tried. And I pressed pause and I was like, you got this, like all the tools, I self-soothe. I spoke to myself. I'm like, you got this, baby girl. Just take a break. Take a little sip of LaCroix. You got this. And I was like, this is so fucking funny that I'm in the biggest fucking contraction / Krispy Kreme Crunchwrap Supreme energy right now, which makes perfect sense because I was talking about contraction and and I just felt that. And it's so funny. So usually, I have a little bit of a perfectionist quality about myself. And I was recording it and I was like, just don't delete it. It's okay. We can come back to it. And I was like, nah, like this isn't it. Like I felt very disconnected to my body and my voice, and it was funny as fuck, and there was great pointers, but it like felt inauthentic. And I did something which gives me a little bit of agita, but I deleted the whole episode. I was like, it's gotta go. And that gave me a little bit of anxiety, but I was like, I am still in a crunch right now. Like I am still in a rupture of sorts. And there's a duality that I could talk about, what I'm going through and also hold people. But I was like, right now, what's so up for me is that I need to move this crunch through my body. Like I have to move this crouton through my body. Like it's break your teeth level crouton happening. And so as stressed as I was that I fucking scrapped the episode because there was gems in there, I was like, oh, I think that was like the funniest. Not that I like try because I don't think people that try that hard are that funny. But it was free flowing. I was like, oh, that might have been the funniest episode. But it just, something was misaligned and felt fucking weird. And so I put the laptop away. I was pissed. And I went ham. And I had the privilege, I had time in between my schedule between this and my next client, which not everyone has, but there's ways to adjust, and we could talk about that and make it work for you. But I had actually like a decent amount of time, and I was like, okay, should I go back and like do the episode? And I was like, nah, like you are trying to talk, like I was trying to out-talk my way out of the contraction. And there's a space for that. Can be hella healing. And we'll talk about those benefits today, like how you can move through the crunch and move through the contraction through, more talk therapy and journaling and all of that. But I was like, it has never been more apparent that I need to be in my body. And so I gave myself the full hour, which is a fucking blessing. And again, not everyone's circumstances. And I'm also happy to talk to you about like how you can make that work in 3 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever. But I was like, oh my God, I randomly have an hour. This never happens. And it was truly like, move this through your body because you're crunchy as fuck. And I was like, yes. So I did my thing. I did swamping, which we've talked about before. It's a Mama Gina tool. And I was like listening to like rage music and blah, like feeling the rage, like hitting pillows and feeling the rage through my body. And then I moved into grief and just allowed myself to feel the sadness and the like the devastation. Like, why am I in this fucking contraction? And I wasn't ready to move into a more like turned on, like, yes, juicy state because I was still in the feels. And so I transitioned into breath work. And I still have a lot of crunch to go. It's still a crouton, but it's not going to break your teeth. You know what I mean? Like it's a sourdough at this point, but it's still bread. I'm still feeling a little wobbly. And you may feel that energetically. I'm still feeling like, whoa, but I at least feel more connected to myself, to what I'm saying, to my truth. Before I was just so in the fucking contraction. And it's so interesting how this podcast, is a gift to others, but it's also a gift to myself because it's always forcing me to do the fucking work. I mean, I could just steamroll over and produce, but that feels very inauthentic to me. Not from a place of perfectionist or perfectionism or getting it right. It's just like, I'm teaching people how to do this work. Then like, you gotta do the work, So I just wanted to like footnote that before we started is that like, we're going to talk about like a lot of different ways to uncrunch or first of all, uncontract is not a fucking word, but take up space, like, move from contraction, or as Regina Thomas-Schauer says, move from rupture to rapture. But I was like, hold on, there's something like really present that so much of this work, and it's funny that I do a podcast because I love to talk about this shit. I'm like, yes, and there's so much to jam out about. But it's a constant reminder to me that so much of my fucking work is in the body. And our intuition lies there, and our pleasure lies there, and our wisdom lies there. And I wanted to fucking steamroll it. In the last few days, I have been steamrolling it. And I have been avoiding it. And I think I'm already in a little bit, in one area of my life, in a state of contraction. So me avoiding my body, it just was a chef's kiss on top. Like I was avoiding my truth and I just wanted to put that little footnote in there because I think we talk about so many amazing things, but such a big component of the work is being in the body, feeling safe to be in the body, moving these emotions through the body. I mean, like currently right now we're, whenever you listen to this, we are basically transitioning into World War fucking III. We're in a global pandemic. Horrendous things are happening around the world. It's just a hot mess. And so it's like we ingest all of these heinous things and great things too. I don't want to just shade it that one way, but pretty heinous things, pretty genius things, and we don't really have the tools and technology to digest, to move it through our body. It's just, and in the fast-paced culture, it's like next. Oh my God, I just saw something fucking devastating on the news. Well, you gotta go to work now, move. Like it's always this move, and we don't have the tools, or we haven't had the tools, I should say, because we do have the tools. I have the tools. I want to teach you the tools to hold all of it. To hold the fucking rage that members of the queer and LGBTQ plus community are, it makes me so mad. I'm like crying and sweating at the same time, are in 2022 being pushed away and pushed aside. This has always been happening, but that this is allowed and acceptable and that we're going to fucking World War III and there's a global pandemic that is just apparently, like there's so much that we ingest and we don't have a moment to fucking digest that of like, I am devastated. I am devastated over this news. And how can I hold myself and hold this devastation in my body? How can I move this devastation and this rage in my body? And I do want to, talk about like, it's not just like, then I move the grief that, my fellow friends and queer community, are not being treated right. And then I'm good. It's like, there's activism behind it. You know what I mean? It's not just moving the grief through my body and tiddly too. It's like you move it and then we take action. I'm using that as a specific example because that's what is up right now. But that's on the same token of the pleasure thing too, of we don't even have the time to, it's move. We don't even have the time to, whoa, here I am right here, right now. Like, yo, this rose kombucha, yum. Like this shit hits good. You know what I mean? Or like, whoa, this Trader Joe's is what I had for lunch, so it's on the top. Like tahini, cauliflower, tofu bowl. Yo, do you taste these flavors? Like, we are wired for that, and yet it's not celebrated in the culture. So it felt like inauthentic and a disservice for me to fucking steamroll my thoughts, opinions, if I wasn't going to turn around and do the work. Like, I had to digest, first of all, cultural things, and I'm like, this is fucked up. I had to process that, but I also had to process my personal crunch that I'm going through, in my business and other areas. And I'm like, I actually just have to not even look at it because I've been looking at it. I have to move this fucking rage through my body. I have to go and scream into a pillow and beat the shit out of a pillow. And I need to fall to my knees and fucking cry and feel the frustration in my body. And eventually, I can go to the more turned on place. Turned on feeling like I feel alive. I feel the sensations in my body. I really fucking hear this music and I'm jamming out. So that's a big footnote, but I think it's important for us to note. And it's so funny. It's such a fucking mindfuck. Like, Erica, you can't find better words. But it's a mindfuck, right? Because this medium is a podcast where we're talking, and you can get extreme value from that. And I've stretched and grown from listening and all the things, but yes, please continue to listen to podcasts like this. Continue to listen to inspiration. But with the body work, my invite to you is listen to your own body. Listen to your own intuition. It's a balance, right? Like, if you've heard this podcast, I'm in all the classes, all the programs, I have a therapist and a coach and a mastermind coach and this and that. And I don't take their advice as Bible, but it helps me stretch. It helps me grow. And I also have to be an equal player in this conversation. So yes, I'm going to go to that mastermind call and be like, ooh, yes, that's juicy. But I also have to tap into my body and say, you know what, does that resonate? Is that a yes or is that a no? So I know we went on a little bit of a tangent, but it's the theme of listening. So yes, listen to podcasts, listen to things that, have you grow and stretch, because fuck yeah, we want to be in those places of inspiration, joy, and don't forget yourself. Don't leave yourself out of the equation. It's really easy, especially in Instagrammable. It feels like that because it's fucking crammed in, but it's Instagrammable life. It's easy to avoid your inner truth. It's easy to avoid your intuition. For me today, I was like, Erica, just record the podcast. You got another call. You got to keep moving. But my intuition was like, bitch, you're going to put that screamo music on and you're going to hit the floor and you're going to fucking wail. And so that's again, for the 77th time I've told you this, but that's my deep, deep, deep heart-to-heart invitation for you is, yes, get inspired, get into communities and rooms. And if you need help finding those places, I'm happy to hold you because everyone's flavor is different. Some people like this different flavor of community, some people like this. I'm happy to usher you. I feel blessed to be in a ton of different communities, but also ones that I'm not even in. I'm like, oh, I see them. I'm happy to pass another person to another amazing community. But my cliff notes is get into rooms, whether it's Zoom rooms, real rooms, Voxers, I don't give a shit, where people see you and they celebrate you and they're stretching you and they're encouraging you to grow. Like, get into those rooms. And how can we have a relationship to our inner truth, our inner listening, where we can listen, what's coming up for me? Is this a fuck yes or a fuck no? Does that make sense? It's so funny. That's like so off tangent, but I think it's really important that listening, and it does go, because listening is a huge part in contraction, because it feels fucking aggressive, right? Like, I always think when I talk to my clients, I always say like, okay, we're in a contraction right now. We're in a contraction. And for me, contraction, what I see is like almost like a little kid, like hunched over, just like that hunched type energy. And to me, as a facilitator, as a coach, even to myself, when I do this work on myself, it would feel extremely violating if I would have the client just open up, because what's the opposite of the contraction? I could see someone maybe taking up space and they're heart open and leading from pleasure and they're alive. Like, excuse you, that feels hella violating from going to contraction, jumping right into open heart energy. For some people, they're like, all right, I shifted, I moved, bada bing, bada boom. But why listening is also why listening is also an important piece is you can't force open a contraction. I mean, you can, but it wouldn't feel good. It wouldn't serve you. So how we can dance with the contraction, because so often self-help, we want to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, we want to get in there and we're going to fix the problem. And, we're going to make moves and we're going to open up that coconut shell. Do coconuts have shell? I don't know. I'm seeing a coconut and me taking... this is a bizarre vision that you don't need to go on. But... we sometimes self-help ourselves into such an aggressive place of like, gotta fix it, gotta move. But when we're in contraction, first of all the time, point blank, but especially when we are so fucking frustrated and contracted, ooh, we gotta listen. We gotta listen. We gotta listen. This is a random sidebar that I never thought I'd go to, but I think it's interesting. When I was doing one of my trainings for sexual empowerment, our facilitator, our teacher, one of our teachers, would suggest before partner play or even self-pleasure, so often we're just like, well, yeah, like I just jump into this, like I just jump. And they were suggesting, can you ask your body, like, is it a yes for you or is it a no? And that's not it. It's like, okay, it's a yes, but I want this area touched. It's a conversation and it's an invitation. And so often we bypass those signs and the body wisdom because it hasn't been taught to us in this culture. And so I surprised myself that I went to the more sexual realm, but that's also an invitation to put in your top hat of, okay, when I enter sexual practice, whether it's with a partner, partners, myself, instead of just rushing through or instead of just going to what I think, can I genuinely ask my body, hey, would this feel safe for you right now? Would this feel good? Okay, it would? Okay, cool. What would feel good? Can you tell me, like, what type of touch, what type of, and if it's a no, you got to honor that no. And so often we bypass that, and that's okay. There's no reason to make ourselves wrong or shame ourselves or crucify ourselves. But take the sexual piece of this, like I'm talking about that, and you could put it right on top. You can copy and paste it onto the listening. If you're in a contraction and you try to fucking rip yourself out and self-help yourself out, ooh, that doesn't feel good. So my question to you is, when you're in a state of contraction, can you have a conversation with yourself of, hey, babe, I know, I'm so annoyed too. It's so much more fun when we're fucking jamming. So I see you. I know. I feel you in the frustration, my love. I feel you. And you know what? You're allowed to be here as long as you want, but I don't think you want to be here forever. So how can I help you to start coming out of this? And maybe you're ready to come out of it tomorrow, or maybe it's going to take time, and that's okay. I'm here to serve you. Like, what do you need? What do you need to slowly come out? And maybe they'll speak to you and say, you know what? I need to do some movement, or I need to journal, or I need to call a friend. But let's start that conversation instead of shaming the shit out of ourselves and making ourselves so wrong that we're not in the best mental space. Can we have these conversations with more compassion, with more love, with more intuition versus self-harm, judgment? Gah. Is that fair? Such a tangent that I did not expect to go on, but I think it's a really important... It's funny because, I talked about me recording the episode this morning, and it was very energetic and funny and yeah. And now that I've worked through, or I've combed through, there's still more. There's always fucking more. I feel much softer, and I'm sure you probably hear that. Like, I feel softer and gentler, and I am more willing to not be a bully to my contraction, be like, what the fuck? Why are you frustrated? Because that was kind of the energy I was showing up with this morning. Like, why are you fucking frustrated? What's going on? Now more like, oh, baby, I so see you. I so feel you. So it's interesting that I've kind of landed in a more compassionate space for myself. And I think that's kind of the goal. Of course, we have an ebb and flow, but I think this is the place where we want to meet ourselves, especially the pieces that are like, I am struggling moving forward. Like, to aggressively push them does not feel good. So it's funny, right? Because I talked about contraction, 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 um, and crunch, crunch, crunch. We talked about the croutons, the Krispy Kremes, the crunch, like the crunchy, yummy nummies. And you may be like, bitch, what is even a contraction? You might have been like, hold up, I'm very much into this episode, and I don't even know what you're saying. Intuitively, you probably get what I'm saying because you're probably jamming along. But how I look at contractions, or we could say ruptures, is for me how they land. Not all the time, but this is the pattern recently. Is when I'm jamming. You know what I mean? Like when I'm jamming and I'm like, yes, bitch, yes, like it's happening. The mindset, we're moving, we're grooving, like yes, yes, yes. And I'm stretched and I have to contract because it feels really fucking scary that I'm growing and I'm expanding. And so it's like a rubber band, right? Like I always say this example that it's like a rubber band because when you don't stretch the rubber band, like there it is in its little circle. But when you do this work, you're stretching and you're growing and you're pushing edges like a rubber band, rubber band, rubber band, ba 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 ba, right? And then we get to a point where you're like really stretching the rubber band and there's a piece of you that's like, is this rubber band gonna rip? Like, what do I do with this? And so out of fear, we contract. We contract. And that's so normal. And actually what I wanted to say, if you are feeling like, I feel sticky as fuck, I feel frustrated. Like, why do I keep this? So often I hear, why do I keep having to relearn the same thing over and over again? Like, haven't I learned this? I've worked on this before. It's actually a really good thing. Here's the thing. Sometimes we do, because of trauma and all that. But the conversation that I'm really speaking about today is when we allow ourselves to stretch and grow, usually a contraction happens. And usually we can move through them quickly. But it's actually evidence, it's actually data that things are happening, that we're moving and grooving. So I just want to give you a little peace of mind if you're like, motherfucker, like I'm in such a state of right now. That's usually a good sign that you're on the right track. Because here's the thing, the ego, and we could talk about the ego all day long because so many spiritual people have a fucking opinion about the ego. But I will say, the ego, no shade on the ego. They serve a purpose. But the purpose that the ego really serves is to have us survive. Sometimes, through messy-ass ways. But their purpose, their intention, their goal is to have us survive. So when we try to be real cute and to do, thriving, ego's like, listen, okay, hey, let's chat. I'm down to do the surviving thing, but thriving, you're getting a little crazy. Like, this is a little out of my wheelhouse. Doesn't feel safe. I don't like it. Because the ego is just there to, quote unquote, protect us, even though it's not real protection, but we're really cute. We believe that that's protection. Again, we could talk about the ego another day. I have so many different thoughts on the ego. All the things. But I will say our brain, our mind, so often feels scared when we thrive, right? And we've talked about this before in mindset. It's scary to thrive because it feels unknown. When we survive, it's like sometimes we're like, fuck, this sucks. But we know it. We're like, you're not the lead in the play. You're not the lead in the school play, but you're in the chorus and, you're kind of tap dancing in the last thing. You're like, well, I still made the show. And I know if you're here, you want to be the lead in the play. You know what I mean? Like, I know that you're wanting to be the lead in the play, but so often when we go from ensemble, why is everything turned back to musical theater terminology? But here it is. You'll follow me on this journey. So often when we go from ensemble to our chorus to the lead, like it's exciting, like I went from my one-line solo to the whole fucking kabang, like, oh my gosh. And also sometimes it brings the creepy crawlies of anxiety. I'll say the same thing. I'll be real athletic here. I am a prime athlete. She's running, she's doing the athlete thing. Same energy of like, and I talk, my one client, she loves this example. Instead of like the theater thing, she always says JV versus varsity energy. So, and her thing is like, okay, like I've always played in JV energy of like, don't want to really rock the boat. Like, at least I get like the uniform. And like, sometimes I go to the away games and like, yay, I could say I'm on the team, but it's like, cool. You're on the team. Thank God. God bless. That's the surviving mentality. But what would it be like If you were on fucking varsity, hell, what would it be like if you were the captain? So same examples. Again, it produces the same result of like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm the captain and I get to have a C on my shirt. Or if you're the lead in the musical, you're like, I'm the lead in the musicale. You know, like you're jazzed, you're psyched. And also panic can sometimes ensue. And that's where a contraction happens. And we get in our head of like, fuck, I cannot believe I am the lead, but so-and-so is so much better singer. Am I gonna fuck it up? Am I tone deaf? You know, like whatever. So usually I'm really going on, I don't know why I'm on a high school journey here with all the fucking extracurriculars. But when we stretch, I think what I'm trying to allude to, and I know you're picking up what I'm putting down, is when we stretch into something even that we desire, it can sometimes scare us. But here's the cool thing. That means you're growing. Because if you weren't contracted here and there, your ego has no threat. Your ego's like, okay, hello, coasting. They're coasting, thank God. They're coasting. So when you have the crunchies, when you have the crawlies, when you have the contraction, it means you're pushing a boundary somewhere. And it means you're willing to stretch and go to places that you haven't normally gone. So well fucking bragged. Even though you're like, bitch, I hate this spot. And I'm like, I'm with you. I just threw myself on the floor for an hour crying. So I'm with you. And well celebrated that you're willing to hold your ego. And you're willing, and again, we could talk about ego. I hate when people villainize the ego. You know, like, they're sometimes shady, but they have a purpose. So we'll talk about that for another day. But being willing to hold the ego and also being willing to stretch. Stretching into a place of safety, you know, not doing like reckless things and taking like risks, but stretching and growing in places that feel, I'm going to push this. And I'm also going to hold safety within my body. I know for me, usually when my ego is threatened, it's so funny. I would hear this in like business masterminds and all this all the time, that people were like, oh, I want to blow shit up. Like, I just want to blow my business up. I want to put it to wraps. I want to put it to bed. And I'm like, why would I ever do that? And now that I'm stretching into a new level of being on shit tons of fucking podcasts, having my own podcast where I need to show the fuck up consistently, being hair flip, tossle in Cosmo magazine, she was featured, you know, being seen in a new way, I understand the impulse of wanting to fucking burn it down, you know, because I've always dreamed, or recently have dreamed like, oh my God, wouldn't it be sick to be in Cosmo and then have a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Like, it sounds so great in theory, and it is. And now I know how to hold myself in this greatness and be like, yes, like I can hold good things, I can hold good things. But because it was uncharted, unfamiliar territory, I was like, burn this motherfucker down. Like, here's the match, here's the key, let's have a kiki. You know, like I was like, burn it down, like get rid of her, because it was just too threatening for me, because it was too new, it was too visible, there was too many people commenting, and like it just felt new, and it felt scary, and it felt, oh my gosh, I know how to play safe. I know how to play small. What the fuck territory am I walking into? And so I now understand so often when people are like, I want to burn it down. It's like, I want to burn it down. You could apply that to business. You could apply that to marriage or relationships or dating, or, you know, marriage is one way to go. Partnerships, any type of partnership, friendship, where things get sticky and a little, we were like, fuck it, I'm out, I'm done. You know, like, this is up. This can be up for us. And it's something to notice the impulse to burn it down and just shut it down when things get uncomfortable. And that's why I said, like, how can we navigate instead of like, fuck you, don't be uncomfortable? Because I don't know. I don't get motivated by being yelled at. I never have. I'm more motivated by dancing with it and be like, okay, you cute little bitch. You're a kinky little thing, you little minx. You're a little uncomfortable. Okay. And meeting myself where I'm at in the uncomfort and what she needs and how I can hold this piece of me. It's funny because usually when I don't hold myself in the contraction, usually what happens is my self-saboteur comes out so geniusly. And just because I had to, like, it was like self-saboteur. I had to because I'm like, Rue, Queen Rue, Mama Rue, we're thinking of you. So I had to pull a RuPaul quote because RuPaul is just genius at speaking at the self-saboteur and all the things. And I pulled a quote that I fucking love. And RuPaul says, "To win at life and to win in this competition," RuPaul's Drag Race, "you have to be willing to die 1,000 deaths and be reborn 1,000 times." Ooh, mic drop. And then RuPaul says, "When the going gets tough, the tough reinvents themselves." It's like a stew. You know, it's like a yummy bone broth where I'm like, Because that's the thing. So often we shame ourselves and make ourselves so wrong when we're in the contraction or we're in the fucking crunch and we're like, fuck this, burn it down, I'm done, I'm out, I'm stupid, I'm bad, I'm wrong, all the stories. I suck at relationships, I suck at business, I'm stupid. Where the most brave thing to do is sitting with the crunch. The most brave thing to do is remembering, ooh, this is a sticky one, but I'm a badass and I'm fucking committed to this. I'm committed to myself. I'm committed to my desire. I'm committed to this work. And I'm willing to die. I'm willing to shed and work through this piece and then come out on the other side. Because here's the thing. We often get so like, oh, fuck, I'm in a contraction. So often it's information or it's data. And it's funny because I'm in a contraction of my own. I'm in a business contraction right now. And when I worked through this today, I also had my mastermind call, which was great because it helped me move through. I made the contraction so wrong, right? I was like, fuck. And then I moved it through my body. And then I talked to my coach and I was like, oh, this is information. This is data. And the data for me, and I'll tell you, what's up for me is my data is a desire to come out more with this work. I already am out with this work, with podcasting and speaking. But there's really what the nugget that I found was I always felt like this work chose me, because I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be an actor. And then annoyingly, I feel like this work chose me. And I was like, you motherfuckers. Like, I didn't choose this weird spiritual path. And I love it. I love it every day. Like, I'm like, all right, let's ride. And so often, and so part of my journey was, let's ride, let's ride, let's ride. Like, I'm going on the path. I'm intuitively, jamming. I felt like this path chose me. But what I found in my contraction is I never claimed this path. And that's what I'm desiring because I'm desiring to have a say in it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I feel like this path chose me and now I'm ready to choose this path. It's almost like a relationship when they're like, choose your partner every day. And now I'm like, I'm ready to fucking claim this, just like, oh, I have a business and I help people. It's like, no, I am claiming this. I am rooting this into the earth. And why I'm saying this is if I didn't have the contraction, I would have never gotten this lesson. You know what I mean? Like, there's a place for love and light. There's a place for skipping down the road and popping your bubble gum and doing all the cartwheels. I love that place. There's a place for that. But when you get to the contraction, first of all, celebrate the shit out of yourself because that means, okay, I'm growing. I'm stretching. All right, ego, I love you. You're feeling a little threatened, though. You're feeling threatened, so there's a reason why you want to shut down. And then, usually there's some data. Usually there's some information. Usually there's something that we can work with. There's a little speck of information that we're like, oh, and I could have never fucking gotten here if I was in my love and light lane all the time. I wouldn't have gotten to this juicy piece of information. I'm so excited to talk about all the things, so I'm going to make this brief. But this is a huge component of my work. I'm telling you what's happening, my business contraction that's happening. And this is a sidebar. This is really cute, but I feel like I should tell you. So because it feels so real and I'm not, bypassing that it is causing me pain and frustration. A part of me is like, I want out of this business, like looking at other career options and like, get me out. Because it felt so threatening. And now because I've worked through it, I've talked to friends and coaches and, moved it through my body. I'm like, oh, I was just scared. And that's okay. I was scared. So I was reacting. And it's funny because I have clients do the same thing. I talked to a client the other day that's copy and paste the situation to dating. And her reaction was, I'm just not going to date anymore. I'm like, holds up, holds up, holds up. And doing this work, moving the pain through your body, moving all of this. And then also when that feels complete, though, not that complete, but when it feels good, when you're in a place of, okay, I took away some of the charge, we kind of go inward and we ask, what information is here? Oh, it's such good work. I'm obsessed with it. So there's more to talk about that, but we have other juicy nuggets that we have to go to. But with that being said, I love my work being accessible to people. I have tons of free resources. I have an Instagram at @WeTheLight_LLC that you can follow me for, fun free content. I also have a free ebook, From Perfectionist to Pleasure Expert. It's a quick read, and you can get that on my website, which is www.wethelight.org. And actually on the website, you could hear, I do shit tons of other podcasts, so you can listen to me being interviewed. You can get the free book. You can get on the blog. Like, I want to make sure this work is supporting you. And the last thing is, and I know you guys know I talk about this a lot, is my free session. And the time has come that eventually I'm going to, we'll ebb and flow with it, but I may eventually let that go and create something new, like create like a mini juicy session, a paid session. So the free option is eventually, not tomorrow, but it's eventually going out. So what you get in this free session, it's a 60-minute free, no strings attached call. We do a session, we do it up. I make sure you have tools, tips, tricks, all the good things. We go into the body, all the fabulousness we're talking about. And then if it were for like, ooh, we're jamming, we could work together. If not, all good. And you're like, Erica, point me to other people. I'm like, no problem. But that phase of the free sessions are slowly coming to an end, at least for now. Maybe in the future they'll open up, but I'm moving into more, different ways of working that. So I wanted to make sure that you got it for free because, like I said, that offer will not always be complimentary. So with that being said, you know how to multitask. Go to the website, www.wethelight.org. Make sure you get the free book and make sure you get the free session because it is going to go away. And like I said, in that session, you get a free, amazing consultation, all the good things. We jam, we see if we're a match to work together, and we have a great time. We make sure that hour is filled with lots of fun, lots of laughs, lots of healing, all the good shit. But make sure you get that before it goes. So that was the little client stuff we're talking about. I wanted to talk about, we kind of touched on it, the contraction, what do we do? And I suggested, gentleness and asking what it needs. But it's funny because it's almost like a pregnancy, like you can't rah through a contraction. I mean, you can't, yes, there is a space for that. But it's like the first step is like breathing, self-soothing, be here in the here and now. And here's something that I love is remembering your vision, remembering your why. And so for my example with my business, I'm like, burn it. I'm like, burn it, burn it, burn it. Let's sit in a campfire. Yeah. I was like, burn it. I don't give a fuck. And then once I start to move the energy, once I start to have compassion for myself, when I start to talk to myself, I'm like, oh God, I am fucking frustrated. And I don't want to burn this. I genuinely love serving people. I have a ball, even though I'm resistant as fuck sometimes. I have a ball making this podcast. I love nothing more than public speaking and moving audiences and crowds. I love nothing more than to see my clients shift and shake and heal and grow and be so fucking proud of themselves. Okay, remembering your vision. Same, if you have a business, you could apply that. But love too. I mean, anything. Love, I'm talking about my client with I'm going to stop dating. And she worked through it. She's like, God damn it. She found her little wisdom. And then she's like, I want love. I'm having a moment where I'm hitting a wall and I'm frustrated as fuck. But ultimately, my deep desire is to have a love life that feels fucking abundant and juicy. And I'm like, cool. Okay. So let's remember that. We don't have to get to that tomorrow, in the contraction, but it's important to remember that. And I think that's an important lesson of remembering your why. We always say that, everyone always remember your why, remember your vision. But there's truth to that, and remembering your desires. And so often and I could riff out on this, and we've riffed out on this before, so often we don't even know what we're desiring. So getting clear with your desires will be such a healing aid in this work, because you're like, you know what? I am pissed. I am frustrated. I'm feeling stuck. But at the end of the day, I do desire that, and I'm going to work through this in a way that serves me. Does that sound good? There's tons of tools, and this is, again, why you work with someone like me, that we hold you through these spaces of the good, bad, the ugly, all the flavors, all the textures, all the shades, all the things. But I want to give you some tangible things to start doing now if you are in the crunch. First of all, like I said, book a free session so we can move through that right away. Some other things to do are journaling, and I have a whole mindset episode, so be sure to catch that one. That's in the early beginning of the season or the series. And also I have a PDF, some good journaling things. So if you need that, be sure to shoot me an email, go to my Insta, shoot me a DM. I'm happy to send you all of that. But some tools we can start doing is journaling, mindset, talking to the body. Like we said, like the body has so much fucking wisdom that we bypass every day. You know, I want you to move the blah, 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 blah through the body. But my like genuine, even though we're talking about crunch and we're talking about contraction, like my deep desire that I would love for you to get from this particular episode is, how can I have a really beautiful, gorgeous relationship with my body? How can I know them? How can I speak to them? How can I listen to them? Because we're really fucking good at not listening, and that's okay. But I want us to get really good at honoring that voice, honoring the intuition, because the intuition does live in the body. You know, we can't mindset our way. Like there's such joy and there's such beauty in mindset, but when we're really in our body, when we're really here and breathing and jamming's going to be the new crunchy. I have a feeling jamming is, get the merch. Jamming's the new crunchy. But when we are jamming, we can listen to our intuition better. It's like the Course in Miracles quote. Course in Miracles is a metaphysical text. And the quote is, and I'm going to butcher it, and I'm so sorry for ACIM fans, but I got, I could Google it, but I'm not. But the Course in Miracles quote is, the voice of the ego is a loud, thunderous roar, and the voice of the spirit/the soul is a quiet whisper. And so often it feels safer to listen to the screaming, the screaming voice that's present for us. And there's a place for that. I don't want us to totally discount that voice, because sometimes we do have to listen to it. But the society so focuses on that loud, thunderous voice. And my invite is not even to scrap the loud, thunderous voice. There's a place for it. We need it sometimes. It's like fear. Where there's this stigma, or there's this thing that goes around in the spiritual community that's like, face your fear and do. I think I actually have a book that that's right above me right now, but that's like, face the fear and do it anyway. And it's like, sure. Like yes. There's a place for that. And sometimes fear is also needed. Like, meaning that voice of fear that's like, hey babe, got a weird feeling. I don't think you should walk into that alley right now. I don't know why. So there's a place for it. If we don't want the ego, we don't want fear to rule our lives, but they're welcome to the table. They're welcome to the table. They're welcome in the car. They're not allowed. Ideally, we don't want the ego or fear to drive the car, but they're welcome to sit there, because you know the deal. When you're like, hey, get out and stay out. When you're like, get out and stay out, Dolly Parton, they're going to be like, bitch, I'm coming back better than ever. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, okay, like, you're kicking me out, and don't you worry, I'm coming back. So it's like, you're welcome in the car, but the voice of my spirit, the voice of my soul, the voice of alignment, the voice of love is actually going to lead this conversation. And when we're in frantic energy, when we're like, where I live most of the time, we can't hear that intuition. We can't hear that, because the intuition, the soul, sometimes is quiet. And it's hard for us to get to that when we're so overthinking and in our stories and in pain and bleh. So it's work. It's work to, okay, I can hold the pain. I can hold the loudness. I can hold the ego. And I'm not trying to cast anything away. And can I keep coming back to my truth? Can I keep coming back to the quiet whisper of my soul and my intuition? Because that's juicy shit. I'm like fucking relentless with the pleasure shit, but I can't leave it. I just can't leave it. Because the thing with pleasure is pleasure has taught me so much. I wrote an ebook on it. Go get it at wethelights.org. Pleasure has taught me so much. But one of the things that I love in this particular conversation is pleasure has taught me the duality of deep fucking pain, that I could throw a temper tantrum and I'm still worthy and deserving. That I can be in deep, deep, deep grief and rage. And I also could be deeply present and connected and turned on. And why I also love pleasure, and we talked about this a lot, so I won't make this too long of a spiel, is that when we compound pleasure, right? Like when we little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit, it tells the brain, it tells the body, it's safe to hold good things. I can hold good things. I'm allowed to hold good things. And so often, as we know, a contraction, it's like the rubber band is like, oh, fuck, like, I can't stretch anymore. But when we compound that pleasure, it's like a balm that's like, babe, I got you. You're allowed to stretch more. I got you. It's like the net underneath as the structure holding us. Because also why it's amazing is if we're tapped into our pleasure and we're tapped into our body and we're doing something stretchy or growthy, whatever, growth, or stretch or moving and grooving, but we have the foundation of pleasure, we know we're not going to burn out. Of course, sometimes it happens. But if I'm a person that's committed to my pleasure, committed to taking care of myself, I can stretch, I can grow, I could push. But guess what, baby? I am committed to my pleasure. I am committed to me nourishing myself. That means I'm not going to push myself in a way that feels unsafe. I'm not going to overextend and burn out. I hold the foundation, right, of pleasure. I hold the foundation of listening to my body and taking care of myself. So I will never, we will, but at least in this example, we create safety that we won't grow so hard it burns us out. Pleasure is just so damn good. And if you're like, Erica, help me with that, send me a DM, because there's so many different flavors. There's so many different conversations about pleasure. I made a pleasure episode about it, but there's just so much, it's such a rich conversation why it's so healing, and it's chef's kiss to the sky. And it's funny, this is a sidebar, but I'll let you in a little pro tip. Doing the pleasure work, so often we're like, a pleasure, like boas and eating grapes on a chaise lounge. And God bless, sign me up. I'm like, where are the grapes? Love them. Give me the cotton candy grapes ASAP and chocolate-covered strawberries. But so often pleasure is shadow work, because when we're in our wanting to have a relationship to pleasure, we have to confront our shit. We have to confront, like, I don't think I'm worthy and deserving. We have to confront the societal and the cultural stories of, this is nonsensical. There's so many things to be worried about. You're going to worry about pleasure? So actually, if you think like, pleasure, Erica, that's so light and fluffy. Like, if you want to be a badass, look at your relationship to pleasure, because it's rubbing against, and it's a conversation with your shadow of places where we feel unworthy, undeserving, spoiled, like the crunchies. Talk about contraction. That's a juicy ass place to go. But again, that's a huge component of my work. I would love to talk to you about it. You know where to find me. Let's talk all the things pleasure. Oh, and also, before I forgot about the pleasure thing, I can't stop. I can't help myself. When you have a relationship to pleasure, you open up your capacity to receive, right? So if I'm like, okay, like if I have a relationship to my pleasure, I am consistently giving to myself. I am allowing myself to relax and to lean in. And I create safety in receiving. And when I create safety in receiving, when I stretch and grow, it doesn't feel threatening to my psyche. It doesn't feel threatening to my nervous system or my body. It's like, oh, I've already created the foundation for this. This feels okay. I know how. And here's the thing, when it gets crunchy, I can self-soothe. I can use pleasure as a balm. We talked about a lot of different things. And actually, I'll make two more baby points, because I was going to end with integration, but I think this is a good little tail end with the pleasure conversation. Is when we're in contraction, we're in a state of shutdown, and that's okay. Sometimes we're there. Sometimes trauma or situations put us in shutdown. So it's our job to create safety in opening. like we talked about, that safe voice, that safe nurturer. I suggest sometimes when we're in a contraction, yes, move it through your body. Yes, use pleasure. Evoke that like ideal parent, ideal caretaker. Like if maybe you didn't have the most loving or warm caretaker, maybe you did. It's kind of irrelevant. I mean, it's not irrelevant in life. There's a big conversation about that. But in this particular instance, how would your ideal care, almost like a child that you see this like little baby contracted. So take away what your reality was, your ideal caretaker. How would they see that baby? How would they see that child in contraction? How would they soothe them? How would they nurture them? So stepping into your ideal caretaker, your ideal parent, the piece of you that feels so fucking frustrated and misunderstood and annoyed and wrong and bad and stupid, they need so much compassion. That version of us doesn't need to be bullied or have rocks thrown at us. That's my impulse, is that I have like an inner bully that's like, fuck you. That's the last thing that piece of me needs. My inner contracted state needs like the warm and dad. The warm and dad? What? Someone help. The warm parental energy. Wow, we're on a different planet right now. But the warm parental energy of, come here, Baba. Come here. I know. Giving me compassion, giving me understanding, seeing me in my fucking temper tantrum, and they're not judging, they're not making me wrong, they're holding me, they're soothing me. Maybe if I'm ready, they're giving me guidance. I know I'm a person that hates advice when I didn't ask for it, so depends how my contraction's feeling that day. But really evoking that relationship to that ideal inner parent, that ideal inner caretaker. And here's the other thing. When we are so contracted, we're turned off because we're fucking scared and we're overwhelmed. So my last invite is, fuck it, it's not my last one. One of my last ones is, how can we create safety in your turn on? Because contraction is like lights are off. I don't need full Cirque du Soleil. I don't need Times Square up in this bitch. Like, I don't need Viva Las Vegas. Lights, I don't need them right yet. But my question to you is, how can we slowly inch towards more turn on? Which, cliff notes, usually it's in the body. And turn on meaning, sure, sexual, sensual turn on, God bless America. But turn on meaning, I'm turned on by life right now. I'm alive to my senses. And again, sometimes that state feels very threatening when you're in contraction. So how can we hold safety for ourselves as we're slowly emerging from the cave of contraction and exploring turn on? Meaning, ooh, that kombucha. That kombucha's back and it's still delicious. Turn on meaning, whoa, I'm watching this documentary and it fucking moved me. Turn on meaning aliveness. And sometimes contraction contemporarily rob us from our aliveness, from our senses, from our sensations. And so my invite is slowly, sexily, seductively coming out of the cave and emerging to aliveness in a way that feels safe, in a way that feels nourishing to you. And like anything, especially the work, this deep, deep inner work, integration is huge. Integration is needed. Integration and being patient with yourself, right? Because today I'm feeling a little bit better around my charge. We still got a little junk, but I'm feeling better. But having compassion with myself, having patience with myself if I go back to ground zero tomorrow. And not making myself wrong. Because here's the deal. We know this already. Healing isn't linear. Healing is not linear. Will you come out of the contraction? Abso-fucking-lutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. But being patient, having compassion with yourself, that it's going to take its own time. And not rushing out of it, getting out of the contraction. But being willing to celebrate the shit out of yourself, like I said. And being willing to learn what's up here? What is the gem in this? So be kind to yourself. I'm sure you felt it, like I said. And it's a more gentle episode because us trying to attack this thing, feels violent. It feels aggressive. So I'm going to leave you with this. Well, I have so many fucking things to say, but I'll leave you with this today. It's so normal. It happens to all of us all of the time to be in resistance. And it's a good sign. It's a good sign that sometimes we have to throw a temper tantrum like a little kid because it means we're getting close. It's evidence. It's okay that you're in a spot of resistance or throwing a temper tantrum with contraction. My suggestion, I changed invite to suggestion. She's growing. My suggestion is try your best in a safe way to not avoid it, to not avoid the contraction. So often we're like, ha, 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 I'm triggered. I'm in a contraction, but I'm going to avoid this. Hey, I know for me, I'm like, I'm going to watch The Real Housewives and eat McDonald's. I'm going to avoid this. This is cute. I don't want to look at this. This is giving me pain. So we don't have to aggressively go in there. But can we gently look at it? Can we gently hold it? Can we not avoid it? Remember to talk to this piece of yourself and ask what it needs. It's like a child. We don't need to be scared of it. It's hurt. It's wounded. It's so often we're like, fuck, I don't want to look. And usually it's a piece of us. It's like, I just need a hug. So it's not something to be fearful of. It's something to embrace with love in your own time. Remember, you are a human and dualities exist. So this is the work, that like in one area you're like, fuck yeah, I'm killing it, I'm kicking ass. And another area, a huge contraction, a huge rupture is up. And that's normal. That's totally normal. I'm here for you. Find communities that support this conversation, that hold you through contractions and crunch. Find those people that won't get over it. Get rid of those people, or maybe don't give those people this piece of you. But finding communities, finding spaces that value your contraction, that see you. Oh, fuck, I so see you. I so hear you. I so understand you. Finding those spaces that validate you and help you gently, slowly come out. And here's the thing. Here's a reminder. You're the leader. You're the leader. So if you're with a coach or you're with your friend, yes, they can give you advice. Yes, they can give you tools, but you are the leader. You are in charge of your body. You're in charge of what's going on. So you could take that advice. You could, ask for advice. You could have them help you move it and groove it, but you are in charge of that healing. You are in charge of your body and you let your intuition guide this. Okay, do you pinky promise? Let's gently lean in, very gently, and see what's up. See what needs to move. See what needs to shake. See what gem, data, info, insight is at the core of this. It's scary, but you got it. You got it. And the fact that you're even willing to listen to this conversation or to think about it, it proves how fucking epic you are. I'm really proud of you. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, okay? I'm proud of you. You're a brave, brave soul. You're a brave badass to be willing to confront things that people rarely want to look at. But here's the thing. It's like a child. It's nothing scared to look at. Usually it's evidence or a piece of information about ourselves that we're ready to look at. We're ready to learn about ourselves. I'm so fucking proud of you. I love the shit out of you. We'll talk so soon. And hey, remember, take excellent care of yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And the soul, the spirit, the voice of that love and alignment is found in the quiet, is found in the body. So let's keep leaning. Let's keep going towards that place. I love you. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode and on this podcast journey. And if you loved what we talked about today and you know another human who could definitely benefit from what was discussed, I would so appreciate if you would go ahead and share this podcast with them. Don't forget, hit subscribe or follow so you never ever miss an episode. And the great news is you can always follow me, my work, my blog, my podcast on my website at www.wethelight.org. And hey, remember, life is so much brighter when we shine. I'll see you next time.